You're listening to Oh My Health, There Is Hope podcast.
When your heart is aching and your world is shaking, don't give up. No, no, don't give up.
Hello and welcome to Oh My Health, There Is Hope. I'm your host, Jana Short, and today we're here with Amanda Love. Amanda is a registered holistic nutritionist who works with those with fibromyalgia. She wants you to know the meaning of the word holistic by talking about nutrition and supplements. And to think of the word holistic is to realize that it means the integration of the mind, body, and spirit when addressing health issues. And I got to tell you, Amanda, I get asked all the time what the meaning of holistic means to me. And that was beautifully said. So thank you.
You're welcome.
One of the things we do on the show is we share our story of hope, because I know that your story of hope might be the miracle or the message of hope somebody's waiting to hear. So do you mind sharing that with us today?
Yeah, I would love to share my story. So I was actually born 6 weeks early, and I actually went through just being sick every 4 to 6 weeks. They didn't know what was going on. And after high school, I completed a personal training program, did that, and I turned 20 years old, and all of a sudden I was completely crashing. I was in so much pain. I couldn't get off the couch, and they didn't know what to do. And then eventually in the fall of 2010, so this has been over 10 years now, they diagnosed me by the top rheumatology place in Mesa, Arizona, with fibromyalgia. But then that started the slippery slope of figuring out what should I do next. And the rheumatology people, they always put you on the medications. So I did Cymbalta. I felt horrid. I was like, I'm not staying on this medication. I did it for a few days. And then the second recommendation they said was, do physical therapy. And I had just completed a personal training program the year before. So the physical therapy, I did that. I did the swimming. I did the weight training, and it was awful. I would come out, I was crying. I was in so much pain. And right next door, there was actually like a pain management place. So we said to the rheumatology, they're like, yeah, go ahead, you could do that. And so with the pain management, they would shoot this huge needle into all the fibromyalgia like trigger points. So you would be totally awake. It'd be your back, your neck, and all down in your body. And so what would happen is your blood sugar would drop drastically. So then they would say, oh, you have to have sugar. So you have to have cookies and juice and all that afterwards. And so I was told to do 3 treatments. And after the second one, I said, this is ridiculous. I'm not going to do this again. And so eventually I found a wellness chiropractor. Actually, my grandmother did. And she said to him, she went to his wellness talk because it was like 10 minutes away in Gilbert, Arizona. And he said to her, well, if she's had fibromyalgia at the age of 20 years old, then she's been very, very sick a very, very long time. And so what happened is a light bulb went off in my grandma's head, and she had done nursing and stuff. And she felt that he actually got it, which then started the process of working with him for about 8 months. And he tested me for those food sensitivities. Found out I had 2 genes predisposed me to that gluten sensitivity, one from each parent. I was sensitive to soy, I was sensitive to eggs, I was sensitive to dairy. And eventually I did an elimination diet, and then that started the process of recovering. But I always tell people it takes time to recover. It's not like an easy fix.
I want to ask you a couple questions
Yeah,
about fibromyalgia because my mom was diagnosed with fibromyalgia decades
yeah,
ago.
right.
And it used to be people didn't believe it was real. They thought that, she just was, I don't know, complaining all the time.
Right.
But fibromyalgia is real. Can you just explain to people a little bit about what fibromyalgia is? Because what I know about it is that it's an inflammatory response
Well,
in the body.
yeah. So the sad thing is they're still trying to figure it out all these decades later. And if you go to the rheumatology place, they'll diagnose you with fibromyalgia. You go to the neurology place, it'll probably be chronic fatigue syndrome. And the sad thing is they're actually cutting the funding in the US for fibromyalgia research. So, which is a bad thing because then we need to have these answers of what is fibromyalgia, right? And now across the US, they're not taking people with fibromyalgia. So if you've been going to your rheumatologist for a while, then what's happening to those people, or what's going to happen to people who haven't even been diagnosed with the fibromyalgia?
And
So
one of the things they did not talk to her about was her diet. They didn't
yeah,
connect that an anti-inflammatory diet
no,
helping with fibromyalgia, which is so weird. And I don't even know that they are connecting that today unless you go to the right,
no.
wellness doctor to help you with that. So how did changing your diet change your symptoms?
Yeah, I was getting excruciating headaches. I was so in pain and so fatigued. I was like, this is ridiculous. And cutting out those foods, it's something lifts off of you because you feel more energetic, you're sleeping better, you're you're not in pain. So I always tell people food plays a huge part with fibromyalgia, but I always tell people one little molecule of gluten can stay in your body for up to weeks, up to months. So I feel like we have to get to this point where we realize you have to stay off the gluten for at least a month. You can't cheat. And a lot of times I feel like people cheat. And we have this big craze right now where it's like, oh, go gluten free, but you might have to do more than going gluten free. And there's so many bad gluten free products out there too.
I know
So,
I have a friend, she had to go for migraines. She went gluten-free to help with the
yeah,
migraines and it helped. But she's also a nurse and she understands that our bodies do need a little bit of gluten.
yeah,
And so she will have a piece of licorice once in a while because there's gluten in licorice. I did not know that. So she's like, once in a while, eat a piece of licorice because
yeah,
what happens is if you go completely gluten-free, your body changes. And so if you go to a restaurant, accidentally there's gluten in your food, you can have a really bad reaction, like trigger a really bad reaction or response in the body. I'm not saying you're allergic to it. I'm saying your body hasn't had it. All of a sudden it gets
yeah,
it and it triggers a response. So she will have even a beer. There's gluten in beer. So she'll drink part of a beer to keep her body used to having some sort of gluten in it, but she doesn't eat gluten, if that makes sense.
yeah. And I always tell people it's not like you're going to have to stay off the gluten forever. You could add it back in. You have to, you always are like experimenting with your body. You can't, not one, you're not always going to be perfect. And I don't expect people to be perfect. But if someone had gluten and then they're like, oh, I felt horrible, then I would be like, oh, maybe we should try to stay off it for a little while and then add it back in. It all is an experiment, and all our bodies work differently.
So I think you're absolutely right. And here's the thing, our bodies tell us, right?
Yeah,
It
our
tells us
bodies
what
know
food, but we get so busy that we don't even think when we eat anymore. We know we need to
stuff,
eat and we're not even thinking about it. But I used to have my clients when they were having issues with food, I would have them do a food journal. So
right?
an hour after they ate, they just said how they felt. And so if they ate something, they'd be like, oh, I was tired and sluggish. I couldn't focus. What did you
Yeah,
eat? Right. And so your body is telling you constantly what foods are okay for you and what's not. Like you can go get all the tests, but if you listen when you
Yeah.
eat something, how that makes you feel, and like within an hour, you know. Like I know that when I eat lighter foods, I feel lighter. I have more energy. If I make bigger gaps in between the times I eat, I have more energy because my body's using all that fuel.
Mhm.
I learned that from keeping a diary after I ate.
Yeah, and I think the big thing is what we should have a diary for everything. Like with supplements and stuff too. I hear all the time people are like, "Well, I'm on 10 different supplements." I'm like, "Well, how do you know that's working? How long have you been taking it?" Because a lot of times I feel like with supplements and medications, when people are on medications, it just becomes a habit and they don't know if it's helping them or not. So it's like you got to really track everything.
I think that is really true. And I know that a lot of people, my husband deals with this all the time. He's a veterinarian. So he'll prescribe a cardiac medication for a dog with a heart issue.
Right.
And the dog does really well on the medicine. And then a couple months later, this happens so many times, he's in cardiac with cardiac issues, big issues. And he's like, what's going on? Are you giving him his medicine? No, I stopped. He got better. Well, he got better because he was on the medication.
Right.
But people aren't relating that. They're like, I just feel better. So they get like relaxed in their place.
Yeah.
And they don't start following what they know is working. Because when we feel good, like we're not complaining, we're not whining, we're not paying any attention. But when we're not
So
feeling good, we're really
we're
focused.
complaining.
So I would love to know like some of the ways that your journey with fibromyalgia has brought you into serving others.
Yeah, so for me personally, I always thought I had a mission in life, and I didn't know what that mission was over 10 years ago, but I was always committed to getting better. And so I always want to I feel like I just relate to people with fibromyalgia because I know what it was like to go from doctor to doctor. I went to so many different doctors, and they would just say, "Oh, go to a different doctor," or "Let's do this," and it's very sad. And I think a lot of times with people with fibromyalgia, you get told like your mother that it's all in your head, and then your family members don't understand why you're dealing with this and why you can't be the energetic person that you used to be. And so I can relate to people that way. And then I just want to give people hope that there are answers and that you can get better with fibromyalgia.
So how do you work with people?
Yeah, so I work with people. I like to work with people. I have group programs at 30 day a 30-day program, and I also do one-on-one services. One-on-one services to me is like where I like to work the most is because I get to know that person really well. I find out everything I need to know about their health, their history, the lifestyle. I spend 90 minutes with people because I want to know everything. And then it helps me to create a plan for you based on your health and your body systems. Maybe your immune system needs to be worked on. Maybe it's your digestive system. So it's all a combination. I don't like I don't like this whole like, oh, diet thing with people and stuff. I feel like we're all individuals and we all have like certain things. So it really needs to be like an individual process. And eventually you get the recommendations, and then we do follow up phone calls to see how are those recommendations working? Where do we need to make those changes? And then we decide, okay, maybe we need to work more on the lifestyle. Maybe it's the mindset. Maybe it's accountability. I think a lot of times we get recommendations with our health, but then we don't have the accountability to follow through on those recommendations, which is a huge thing.
I know. I think it's funny that we actually have to have accountability for taking care of ourselves, but we do.
I
'Cause
know.
we get busy and everybody else seems to come first. So I completely get that. When you're working with somebody, um, first of all, I applaud you for doing a lot of individual stuff because we are all unique. And that's the problem
Yeah.
with, I think, our healthcare system
Yeah.
is that they just take whatever those symptoms are and you get unique. You might be the zebra. Like they always say, we're not looking for the zebra, right? You have the sniffles, you're sneezing, you have a cold. But
Yeah. It's
you might be the zebra, but they don't take the time to, I don't even know that they even look at your face anymore. Like they
I
look at the
know.
chart. They don't connect with you. They don't hear what's going on. And the
It's
truth of
like
the
a
matter,
10-minute. It's a 10-minute. Now it's like now with the virus and everything. Now it's not even in person. And so how good is that?
I know, and you definitely need to be heard. There's nothing wrong with you going, hey, I'm up here. Can you please listen to me?
Yeah.
Like, please, I want you to hear me. And so it's okay for you to do that. But what we do, I think a lot of it's because the way we were raised, we just keep saying, okay, I'll
Yeah.
try that. Even though everything inside
Yeah.
of you is saying something's not right, this isn't it. And we just, okay.
Yeah. We just say okay to the doctors, and the doctors don't have any nutrition knowledge and stuff. And we just sort of say, okay, instead of saying, oh, can I try something different? Can I try something natural that would actually help me?
Well,
And
I won't say doctors do not have nutritional knowledge, but here's the thing. Both of my daughters were in med school. And
yeah,
when I got sick, I needed help with nutrition. And when I went to them for help, they're like, they only teach us a semester. Like that.
yeah, that's what I've heard a lot.
Yes. And they ended up becoming doctors of natural medicine because they wanted to be more on the wellness journey part of
Right.
your life than
If
the
you're,
treatment journey.
yeah, if you go to like a wellness doctor, but it's not usually covered by insurances and stuff. So
Not,
that's
which is
the
so sad.
problem.
Yeah, it is. It's very sad that it's not covered by insurance because it's so much more expensive to treat you when you get ill than to keep you healthy.
Right.
So what are some of the places that people can find you?
They can find me on Facebook. It's Amanda Elise Love. Instagram is also Amanda Elise Love. And my website is also Amanda Elise Love. So those are great ways to find me. And they could always check out my podcast, which is on all the platforms, and that's Fibromyalgia Real Solutions with Amanda Love.
Wow, I love that. We're going to definitely put all those links in our show notes so people can find you right away. But I don't want to go yet because I'm going to ask you, like, maybe you can give 3 tips for people to recognize, like, I don't want you diagnosing, but to recognize that they
Right.
might have an inflammatory response issue and like maybe a tips that they can use. Like just saying a lot of it is your diet, but what are some things that are like I know that salt is high in sodium. So duh, that's a no brainer. But there are other foods that I was completely blown away by that caused a lot of inflammation in the body.
I would say gluten's a huge thing if you're dealing with a lot of headaches and fatigue and stuff. Gluten's huge. I always say to people, you have to realize where you want to go in life. So for me personally, I think you have to have a purpose. So you got to keep going with this fibromyalgia journey, because this journey is, I know it's hard, but there are answers out there. And really, really track everything. Like, how does this food make me feel? Like we talked about early on, because food plays a huge part in everything. And so if you don't have your health, then you're not going to be able to do all those things you want to do with your family and friends. And that's the sad thing. So you got to get your health in order to be able to enjoy life again.
And by the way, you mentioned how you don't like the words diets and all these crazy things people are going on. I want to just tell everybody and remind you that the word diet just simply means what we put in our mouth. It's what
Yeah.
eating, right? It somehow or another during the process of selling product, it
Yeah.
became related to weight loss and fitness.
Yeah.
But all it means is what we put in our mouths. And so if you're eating and choosing foods that give your body energy and feed it and nourish it, that's a diet, right? If you're
Yeah.
the person who weighs 500 pounds, they're on a diet. They're just on a diet of other foods.
They're on the bad diet. I always just tell people we're gonna choose food that helps us with our energy, helps us live a life. I don't prescribe to like a certain diet or anything. I mean, it's good to cut out all those food sensitivities at some point, but that's not the first step. It's the first step is to see where you are. That would probably be way down the road.
I totally agree with that. I think that it's really important. And as your body gets older, it changes.
Yeah.
I grew up on a dairy. I'm a dairy girl. I
Right.
love cheese and milk and yogurts. And as I got older, my body said, hell no. And I learned that by eating it and feeling that sluggish, heavy.
Yeah, you have to
Yeah.
try things out. I
But
mean,
yeah,
dairy might be okay for some people. It's just my body doesn't handle it, and so we're all different. I don't like the whole thing with, oh, well, this worked for me, so it's going to work for you. And I'm like, we're very, very complex. Nutrition is not always a simple thing, but it can be.
and before I let you go too, for those people who are not familiar with what gluten is, how would you, because I know it's pastas and the things that
Pastas.
sound so yummy. and Italians are doing just fine with it, but I'm thinking that their body has been adapted to this throughout like childhood. But how would you describe what gluten is and what they should be looking for?
So gluten is found in all the pastas, all these things that we shouldn't have. It's really simple. Just look at your ingredients. If you see gluten, then you really shouldn't have it. Honestly, you don't realize until you start looking at packages how much gluten is in everything. Or if you are allergic to eggs like me, eggs are in everything. I even like soy, for example. Soy is in like tea. So it's really, you just have to look at your labels and see like where that food is. And then just stick to like foods that you know are healthy, vegetables, protein. Just stick to like foods that you know we had hundreds and hundreds of years ago. Don't get into the whole like gluten-free cookies or the gluten-free. I mean, everything now says gluten-free, and well, some of these products they're they're already gluten-free to begin with, and they say gluten-free.
I
So
saw
it's like,
water that said gluten-free. I kid you not. I was
really?
like, yes.
Oh my gosh. So it's crazy. So don't get like into the like marketing ploys, and you have to just go back to the basics.
And everyone who's listening to this, gluten may not be a problem for you. It is not a problem for me. I'm a carbaholic. I eat a ton of carbs, but I process them differently than maybe somebody else. So I am a carbaholic. I love carbs. I eat them and they don't slow me down. I don't have inflammation or inflammatory issues at all. But I'm that different person, right? Maybe the zebra, I don't know. But I do limit, like I'm not eating it
Yeah,
constantly, but that doesn't mean I don't
right.
have a sandwich and my sandwich is made out of a gluten bread.
Yeah,
It doesn't mean I don't have a pasta dish when I want a pasta dish, but I process it differently, which is why we're saying that everybody's body is uniquely different and you're going to respond to it differently, which is why I love that you do individual, like you get to know them, what's good for them, what's not good for them. And so I love that you're doing that individually.
Thank you.
Well, Amanda, thank you so much. We've had trouble cooking up, so I'm so glad we finally did it. And thank you so much for being on the show. You guys can find Amanda's links in the show notes. And I definitely would connect with her, follow her, start grabbing some of the education that she has out there. If you think you have fibromyalgia, or even just struggling with, fatigue, feeling sluggish, having joint pain, those are all inflammatory responses to different things. And I know without a doubt, changing your diet can literally change your life. So definitely connect with this incredible girl.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to the Oh My Health, There Is Hope podcast. Make sure to visit Jana's website, bestholisticlife.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Google Play, or listen there, so you'll never miss an episode. While you're at it, if you found value in the show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if you simply tell a friend about the show. That'll help too. Let's change the world together, one health expert at a time. Looking forward to seeing you next time.